Hello everyone, my name is Seth, and today I'm going to give you my review of The Mandalorian and Grogu. The Mandalorian and Grogu is the first Star Wars film in theaters in 7 years. That's right, you heard me. 7 years. It has been way too long since we've had a Star Wars film in theaters. The last one was The Rise of Skywalker in December of 2019. And if you saw my video earlier this year of the top 10 most anticipated films of this year, The Mandalorian Grogu is absolutely in that top 10. I was 100% looking forward to this film. So was this movie a giant, huge event return to the theaters for Star Wars? I think I would have to answer no, but it still is a good time. But before we go any farther, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. Thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me. Share this video around with any friends or family, and let me know in the comment section, what is your favorite Star Wars movie? So to start out, I will say I've kind of seen a lot of what I would call unnecessary hate for this movie. The reviews have been mixed, which I can understand, but what I don't quite understand is some of the people who have hated this movie, because I don't think there's anything in this that really warrants that at all. I feel like maybe there were some people who kind of came into this with maybe the wrong expectation. And I've said this before. If you've watched me for a while, you know I've said this phrase, but whenever you walk into a movie, you need to leave all of your expectations at the door. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't the best and biggest Star Wars movie ever. This isn't some kind of grand return to the theaters for the Star Wars franchise, which is kind of unfortunate. You'd kind of want that after a 7-year absence, but that's not the film's fault. That's Lucasfilm's fault. Honestly, it's kind of a little bit of the fault of the fans for putting some expectations on it, maybe that are too big, that the film never even advertised or asked for. So what we can do is talk about the film we actually got, what it delivered, and I think it delivered just a fun Star Wars story. If you like The Mandalorian, especially the first 2 seasons, I think you'll just really enjoy this film. And honestly, if you're a Star Wars fan and you have the right mindset, I think you'll enjoy this film. If you are just a casual fan of Grogu just because he's super cute, then I think you'll enjoy this movie. This is a relatively simple story here. The story, honestly, is maybe a little bit thin. There's not a lot of twists and turns. There's not a ton of secondary storylines going on. But what we do have from the story is at least executed on well, and it's enjoyable enough. It's relatively self-contained. Honestly, you could probably go into this not even seeing the show and pretty much get all the dynamics, which that's a great thing that the Marvel Cinematic Universe was able to do at one point. Recently, it hasn't quite been there, but anybody's first film in the franchise for Marvel could be an entry point. I feel like that's kind of how this is. But we get plenty of references and story elements from things like Star Wars Rebels, from the Clone Wars, the original trilogy, and honestly, even my favorite video game of all time, Knights of the Old Republic. If you played the game and you remember it and love it as much as I do, you're definitely going to see where I'm going with this. But when you get to see that fighting arena, and then when they explain the kind of matches that they're having, 100% my mind immediately went to KOTOR. So even though the story is a little thin, I think you can tell that this is written by guys who just really love Star Wars and love the world. It was written by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. They have partnered together on a few different things, most notably the show. So while the story, like I said, is thin, a little bit on the more simple side, more self-contained, I think this is a good addition. This is just a good Star Wars story. One thing I was very much so concerned about going into this film is that maybe this would feel like 3 or 4 episodes just kind of squished together in like a 2-hour time frame where you can, almost kind of see the scenes, and it kind of feels you wanting more in a bad way. But I don't necessarily think it felt like that. To me, the story and the writing did feel like it was crafted to be a film, which is definitely a good thing. I definitely appreciate that, and it did not feel super disjointed, which was a fear of mine. So as a whole, I think the pacing was pretty good for the most part. I think as we're getting toward the end of the second act and we're transitioning into the third act, that's where it kind of drags a little bit. I feel like we could have spent a little bit less time in that moment. And while I didn't really feel like this was like 4 episodes smushed together, I do feel like just the overall scope of the story had me questioning, why did this story necessarily need to be a movie? Why couldn't this have just been season 4 and then they kind of expand upon it a little bit? But that's not really like a huge deal. That's just kind of a question of mine, that maybe this didn't necessarily have to be a movie. But if I had the option of have a Star Wars movie in theaters or just have another season of a show, I'm picking the movie every single time, because like I said, it's been way too long since we've had a Star Wars movie in theaters. I think maybe one of the reasons why this was kind of transitioned into a film instead of just season 4 could have been due to the CGI, and especially the CGI characters that this film has, which I think the CGI in this film mostly looks pretty great. But even though they have really big budgets for the Star Wars Disney Plus shows, to do this for a season with these characters, with these locations, still probably would have been too much of an ask. It probably would have been too expensive to realistically do on Disney Plus. So that's kind of the reason this is a film instead of a show. I understand that. But like I quickly mentioned, I think most of the CGI honestly looked great. All of the locations, all of the ship stuff looked pretty much perfect, honestly. And basically all of the CGI characters were great too. And there were a ton of CGI characters and creatures in this film. There was like 1 or 2, maybe 3 moments where like a CGI character looked like maybe 85%, maybe some of it was kind of the lighting the character was in, but most of the time it just looked great to me. But kind of speaking on the CGI, I will say, I think at first it was a little bit jarring to see and hear a Hutt speak Basic. You're used to seeing and hearing them speak Huttese, even down to the way some of the Hutts moved. It did take a little bit of an adjustment period, but it's not outside. But still, there's precedent for it. If you look in the Clone Wars, albeit it's animation, some of that stuff does happen in the Clone Wars. But to me, it wasn't that much of a hurdle to get over. It all pretty quickly ended up feeling natural. But kind of like how the story is fun, still effective, but kind of thin, that kind of transfers over to the characters. We didn't really have a lot of depth to a lot of the characters. Some of that definitely is by design. Obviously, the Mandalorian is supposed to kind of be, for the most part, like a faceless mercenary, kind of cold. And then, of course, Grogu doesn't talk. He can't talk yet. So there's only so much you can do in terms of character development. But even then, there's not really much here. Now, they do give Grogu a little bit more to do, and by a little bit, I do mean a little bit. He still does a lot of the same things that we've seen him do in the show. Grogu is still super cute, but there were a few moments he got where he actually got to do stuff, and I appreciated that. I think the most real character depth we get in this film is from Rada, which is something I definitely didn't expect. He's played by Jeremy Allen White, and I think he does a fantastic job with what he's given. If you don't know, we first see Rada as a baby in the Clone Wars. So I think that's a really cool connection there. It's not something that is necessary to know going into the film. It just helps give you a little bit more context. But Rada is definitely kind of the emotional center, kind of the heart of the film, and I definitely didn't expect that going into it, but I thought it was really well done and I liked it. It's not a super deep, in-depth character study, but it's a little something. In terms of the story and kind of how the Mandalorian is handled, how Grogu's handled, pretty much how a lot of the other characters are handled as well, it reminds me more of season 1 and 2 of the show. So if you were one of the people who had an issue with season 3, I did still like season 3, but not quite as much as the first couple of seasons. But if you are one of the people who did have a pretty major issue with season 3, I think you will enjoy this film a lot more. Another one of the characters we get that I love is Zeb. Zeb is from Star Wars Rebels, and he's exactly how he should be. He just felt like himself in Rebels, and that's great. And that's kind of expected because Dave Filoni was a creator and writer on Rebels, so that all makes sense. I do wish we got more of Zeb and more of Sigourney Weaver's character. We do end up getting a little bit more Zeb, but I kind of wish we had more of both characters. All of the performances in this film were good. They're just very solid. There's no standout Oscar-worthy performances here, but like always, Pedro Pascal does a great job as Din Djarin. Jeremy Allen White did a great job voicing Rada. I didn't expect to care about this character really at all, but I think his performance helped endear the audience to his character. And of course, Steve Blum as Zeb is always awesome. I think another one of the standout things for me in this film is that this is just a really pretty film to look at. This is a very visually pleasing film. We get some mountainous, icy planets. We get some kind of swampy, foresty planets. We get kind of a big city with a bunch of neon lights, stuff like that. It's not anything that we've never seen in Star Wars before, but it's all just executed very well. It's all shot well. There's one sequence on Navarro where there's a thunderstorm at night, and that was just really, really cool. It gives some great visuals, and I think Jon Favreau just knows how to direct a film. I think he has a great eye for visuals, great eye for framing and lighting. And this is just a well-directed film all around. And of course, you get some great, fun Star Wars action. There's some fun blaster fights, some engaging chase sequences, and there's some really great hand-to-hand combat stuff. I know I've used this word a lot in this review, but it really just fits so well. It's just fun. And I have to give a huge shout out to Ludwig Göransson, the 3-time Oscar winner. He did the score for the show, and he is back doing the score for this film. And the score is absolutely amazing. It's unlike anything we've ever gotten in a Star Wars movie before. Of course, the Mandalorian theme is fantastic, and that's here throughout the film. But there is one track that I've been listening to on repeat. It's called Shikari. At first, it starts as kind of this sci-fi vibe that we really never get in Star Wars. And then he layers in kind of a little bit of a trap beat. So then we start kind of getting a sci-fi, lo-fi trap kind of vibe. And then he brings in some strings. He brings in the Mandalorian theme. It's just so cool. It's genius, honestly. And he shows why he's probably the best working composer. Now it's either him or Michael Giacchino. I would give the slight edge to Ludwig Göransson, but he definitely showed why he is a 3-time Oscar winner with this score. And maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I think he should get nominated for an Oscar for this score. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is the best Star Wars movie ever, or this is going to be the best movie of the summer. This is just a overall really solid and fun film. This is a Star Wars adventure that's just very enjoyable. It's not this huge grand return to theaters for Star Wars, and it's not this epic conclusion to the Mandalorian story. There isn't much to this story. It's a little bit thin. The characters are a little bit thin. There's not a ton of depth to them. But I think if you're a Star Wars fan, if you're a Mandalorian fan, even if you're just super casual Grogu fan, I think you'll enjoy this film because it's all around really solid, really competently directed, and it's just a lot of fun. I'm going to give Mandalorian and Grogu a just super solid 3.5 out of 5. But that's it. That's my review of The Mandalorian and Grogu. Have you seen this film? Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. You can follow me on social media pretty much anywhere, @CinemaSeth, and I'll see you next time.